Hi guys, welcome back to this my story, and hopefully you've all been enjoying it. If you're new to this story, if you've looked at this thumbnail and thought, oh, I'd like to watch that, that sounds interesting, you have to go back to the first one. This is number 3. You have to go back to the first one so you understand the way it's going and everything like that. Now, again, I warn, if you've seen the first 2, I apologise, but I have to warn everyone every time. There is graphic talk of my injuries, and I'll keep the language okay. I'll try to. And, obviously it's upsetting, and it is for myself as well as anyone else. So I'll try to keep it as polite as possible, but I will be going to very graphic detail of my injuries and the things that have happened. So, if you are squeamish, I wouldn't advise carrying on watching, but that's entirely up to you, obviously. So with that aside, we left this, that the following morning I was going to surgery. So obviously I went to surgery, that was all fine. And I went, and I woke up from surgery back in my room, and I felt really good. Genuinely, hand on heart, I felt really good. And for want of a better word, I was buzzing. I was all dressed up again, all, bandages and, but I suppose because whatever they used on me in there was still working on me. I was in no pain at all. And when I woke up, I just felt good. I felt really good. I just had this kind of, wow, I thought surgery would make things better, and it just has. I just sat here and I feel great. And yeah. And anyway, so I felt quite wide awake. I felt really good. I'm just smiling to myself. Even, I know, I'm in a bad situation, but this could be so much worse. And I felt great. And, surgeon come and saw me, said it went really well. Now, the only thing, I can't remember what it was. I think it was 5 days. It was either 5 or 7 days. I was told where I'd had the skin grafts, it had to be left for either 5 or 7 days. It's one of the two. So I do apologise. It's 27 years ago, and, lots have happened since. But it was one of those two. Please let me know if you know. But so everything had to stay on 5 to 7 days to allow the grafts to take and whatever else. So obviously my arms, so the grafts happened to my legs. My arms and stuff were 3rd degree. So I still had to have my bandages done and all that, which is great. But my legs had to stay not touched and let them just heal and let the new skin take, and hopefully. So yeah, that was that. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. It is what it is. So, carry on with the 3 to 4 hourly injections, yada, yada, yada. But I'm feeling really good, really good. So that day after the surgery was, for want of a better word, a usual day. I had my arms done, lots of pain, lots of bleeding, and, mopping up and the rest of that. But bar that, it wasn't too bad. And no sleep overnight, as always. And then the next day, my family came. Now, just to give a bit of context, this happened, you couldn't make this up, on April Fool's Day. It literally, to be fair, I got burnt the day before, but my parents had the phone call on April the 1st. Now, you couldn't make it up. You literally couldn't make it up, but it did. It literally happened on April Fool's Day. So before I tell you what happened to my family, I'll tell you why they took so long. Now, the reason they took so long is the hospital phoned my parents, or my mother in the end, and I suppose to not alarm my family, they said, we have your son at hospital, in that hospital. He's been burnt. Don't worry, he's perfectly okay. Can you come up when you can, please? So my mum instantly, obviously she's worried. I'm in hospital. It's bad enough that I'm in hospital, but she's like, they didn't seem too bothered. They weren't like, it's that bad. So she thought, rather than coming up there and then, which is what she wanted to do, she thought, well, he's obviously not that bad, so it doesn't matter if he waits a couple of days for us all to get together and come up as a family. Both my sisters, my dad, whatever else. So that's what happened. So that's why they didn't come up, because she was under the impression that everything was all gravy, everything was fine. Yes, I've been burnt, but I've had lots of accidents in the past, and, you know, it is what it is, you know, it is what it is. So she was expecting to walk in and see me like sat up in bed, all kind of, oh, stupid me, you know, I've X, Y, Z. She actually thought I'd like burnt my arm. I don't know why, but she said, I was expecting you to be sat there with a bandage on your arm, kind of laughing and joking. Isn't this stupid kind of situation? So what actually happened, I was semi-sat up in bed, at a bit of an angle with the tent, with all the stuff on me and the machines and whatever else. And my mum, my dad, my eldest sister and my middle sister, both older than me, walked in that order. And just the look on their faces told me exactly how I look. Because I've not seen my face. I don't know how I look. And they all burst into tears. My youngest of my eldest sisters fainted. She literally just bang, down she went. And their reaction to me made me cry. And I just broke down. Just floods of tears. Everyone just fell about with crying. And then something dawned on me right then. I hadn't cried. Up to that point, I hadn't shed a tear. Not a tear. Not one. And I don't know why. You know, I can deal with pain, but I hadn't shed a tear. Not a single one. And it wasn't till I saw them and their reaction to seeing me that I cried. And I did cry. And I cried my little heart out, if I'm honest. And they wanted to hug me but couldn't because of the situation. A nurse come in and helped my sister up and picked her up and took her off. And so that was actually quite funny, if I'm honest. And that actually ends up being a bit of a recurring theme in some more other of these videos as they come. But yeah, that was actually quite funny. And anyway, so... You know, my mum and dad sat either side of the bed. My sisters stood at the end of the bed and like asking what happened, obviously, and what's going on. And that's when my mother explained to me. She goes, "Oh, good grief! If I'd have known you were this bad, I would have come straight away." And you know, she's very, very upset at the fact that they've left me here on my own for a few days and whatever else. And you know, because they didn't know. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, there was a lot of upset over that. And how bad it was. And then Mum asked me if I'd seen myself. I said, no. And so she got like a makeup mirror from a bag and gave it to me. And yeah, I do apologise. It's quite emotional, to be fair. And I looked at myself for the first time and I cried again. I absolutely broke down and cried again. I looked like a frog is the only way I can explain it. My eyes had completely come out the sockets. I was just swollen. Everything was swollen and my eyes were bulging, literally bulging. And obviously all the skin on my face, all my hair was gone, my eyebrows were gone, all got burnt off. But I looked like a frog. You know, that's my explanation for how I looked, but I looked like a frog. And I cried and I cried and I thought, and I just thought to myself, is that how I'm going to look for the rest of my life? Is that this me? You know, is this how I'm going to look? And you know, it's not like I'm much better without that, but you know, that's quite a startling and scary thought, you know. And I apologise for anyone that has, you know, had accidents and, you know, but yeah, that broke me. That really upset me. Seeing myself for the first time, like I knew my hands were bad, I knew my legs were bad, but so what? Your hands, yeah, are your hands, and your legs, people barely see them anyway. So what? But seeing my face, just that bad, that bad. Like the flame, because the flames were going up my body. They'd gone in my nose, in my mouth, my lips were out here, like all the inside of my nose was just raw. My nose itself was raw, but just everything, the flames had just gone up over me. My ears just, well, I say covered in blisters, they were, and they were all cut off. But so you could just see there was lumps of skin missing from my ears. It just looked awful. I truly looked awful. So that took some real getting used to. Seeing my face as bad as it was, and and obviously it upset my family, seeing how upset I was at the state I was in. And that was a really low point, in the grand scheme of things. But that was that. So obviously then I explained to my family how it happened, and all of the bits that have happened in between. Obviously I didn't go into graphic detail to my parents about watching skin being cut off me and all that, because they don't want to hear that, really. I'm sure they'll watch this, but we're all a lot older now, so that was that. I spent a day with them. Obviously I actually had the horrible nurse, the bad nurse as I call her, when they were there, and even they noticed how rough she was, and that's not a good thing. But yeah, so we moved on from that. That day kind of was a bit of a blur, to be honest. My sister fainted in the toilet. There was a toilet in the corner of my room, and my sister went in there and didn't come out. So after about half an hour, we wondered what was going on, and she was out cold in the toilet. So, that was yet another little funny situation. But the end of the day came, and they left. And obviously, that they've all got work to do and whatever. So it was lovely to see them. So they went, and I was alone again. And again, another bad night, not really sleeping much, and injections, discomfort. And now I haven't touched on it yet, but I will. So they had this. Now, I don't think they do this now anymore, but this nurse used to come around kind of every evening, and I used to call it the sweetie trolley. And they were just trying to get on top of my pain. My pain didn't seem to be getting any better, no matter what they tried on me. It just was always there. It's like my body wanted me to suffer. And yeah, they kept coming in. Oh, let's try this, and I'd try it, and then they come back. The next day, was it any good? And it's no different. Literally no different. So that will come up later on. But, so every evening that was happening, and morning, obviously. But so anyway, the following day, I again, naked, had lots of stuff taken off and all the stuff, and lots and lots of pain. Obviously, my legs were left because they had to be left. And anyway, the following day kind of followed the same, just the same old, bored, watching snooker, and injections every 3 to 4 hours, and that was that. And that evening, I say evening, I suppose it was around 8 or 9 o'clock, and it was all dark, and I was laying in bed, and I'd actually tilted down a bit. I asked if I could be lent almost flat. I couldn't go completely flat, but I just went down a bit more to try and help me kind of nod off a bit better. And so I was laying there, and I just felt, what's the word for it? Well, just really hot. I felt really hot and clammy. So I had this weird kind of rushing feeling in my body. It's really hard to explain, but you'll understand when I say why in a minute. But so I put my hands on my face, and I was feeling my face, and it was just soaking, absolutely soaking. So I put my hands on my chest. It's just absolutely dripping wet. I was like, boiling, absolutely boiling. And I started feeling all kind of lightheaded and a bit kind of giddy and a bit kind of like it's like I was burning up. So you get a little panic button, but next to the little orange panic button, you've got a light switch. So I turn the light on for the room, and I look down, and there's just blood everywhere. Like pools of blood on my chest. There's blood down on the sides. There's blood all over the floor, and I was like, what the, absolutely panicked then. And so I pressed the panic button, shock horror. And so I pressed that, and the nurse come running in, and she walked in the door, and her look on her face was a picture. And she said to me, don't panic, everything's okay. And I said to her, if it's all right with you, I'm going to have a little panic, because there was just so much blood, so much blood. And so she went off, she come back with a couple other nurses. And what had transpired, I had, back then they were called Venflons or something like that. I think they're called cannulas now, in the back of my hand, and somehow it had come out, and it was just letting blood flow out of me. So that's why I felt odd. That's why I was soaking wet, because I wasn't soaking wet. The blood was all over my hands because I've been touching my hands. And then when I touched my face, obviously I smeared it all over my face, and it had been running onto my chest, and then pooling on my chest, and then dribbling down and going onto the floor. So, I would have loved to have seen what it looked like from their perspective, because I was just plastered in blood. Excuse me. But yeah, that was scary, truly scary, that was. And obviously they took it out and patched that little hole up, because it wasn't a big hole, it was just running freely from me. And they patched clean, like they're just mopping the blood off of me. The problem is they had to change the bed, and I'm not mobile at all. So they had, they took the tenty thing off me, and they took what they could off that was drenched on me that they could take off. And then they had to kind of drag the bedding to my bum. And then I had to kind of pick my bum up so they could pull it off and then redo it all. And it was a big faff. But that was a very, very, very scary situation for me, just seeing just blood everywhere. Now, obviously, I know blood is like milk, and it looks a lot worse than it is, or the amount, it looked like there was pints and pints of blood on there, but it probably wasn't half as much as it looked to me. But at that point in time, yeah, I was really scared. That really did scare me, just to see all that blood just. And it's pooled, it wasn't like smeared. There was like puddles of it everywhere. So, yeah, that was a really, really scary moment. And it just kept getting worse. The whole time there just kept getting worse. But what I'll do, I'll leave it there, because I don't want them too long and it get boring for you. So, let me know in the comments what you think and if you're enjoying it. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.